NATO, an organization that has literally upended global politics since its inclusion, lies at the center of yet another dispute, but this time the center point is Sweden, where religious rights were breached yet again, wreaking havoc across the Muslim world. Not long ago, Sweden and Finland declared their intent to join NATO, a move that upended the country's long-standing policies of non-alignment following nearby Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But the critical juncture came when Turkey opposed Sweden's inclusion in the organization. Now, truth be told, the reasons for this opposition are complex, but they mainly revolve around Sweden's support of Kurdish groups whom Ankara considers to be major threats. On Saturday, something out of the normal happened. Who would have thought that Stockholm would go as far as playing with fire? The spark came when Stockholm allowed the burning of the Quran outside the Turkish embassy, and that too under police protection. Ankara immediately denounced the act, as well as Sweden's granting of a permit to the right-wing group to hold the demonstration. Turkey also canceled an upcoming visit from Sweden's defense chief that would have focused on its NATO membership, which is a big blow to Swedish hopes of attaining NATO membership. The appalling act of Quran burning was undertaken by an organization that would go in the history books forever, and everything started when a member of a far-right Danish organization stepped up. The Quran burning was led by Rasmus Paludan, who leads the Danish far-right political party Hardline. Swedish authorities say the protest was legal under the country's free speech laws, but Sweden's leaders condemned the act, calling it appalling. Well, the million-dollar question is, if this disgusting act came under the banner of free speech, then why aren't Muslims allowed to carry out their religious duties freely? Or is this another one of those hypocritical moments by the EU? Protests by Turks in response to the burning were held in front of the Swedish embassy in Ankara and its consulate in Istanbul over the weekend. Now, according to certain reports by the Washington Post, Rasmus Paludan received permission to burn the Quran from the Swedish government. He was protected by the police while committing the act. But before we analyze the global politics, we need to know about this far-right leader, who seems to have a hate affair with Islamic values in particular. Rasmus Paludan is a convicted racist who heads Denmark's far-right Stram Kurs, Hardline, party and holds both Danish and Swedish nationalities. Now, according to the Daily Mail, Paludan carries his racist ideas, even burnt the effigy of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Stockholm. Although Sweden condemned the incident, Turkey said the Nordic country had to take a stronger stand, and mere condemnation is not enough. Last year in April during Ramadan, the holy month for Muslims, the 41-year-old announced he will go on a Quran-burning tour. He started burning the holy book in places where the predominant populations are Muslims, and this incident came as a shock to the Muslim nation, followed by riots and protests throughout the world. Paludan has been a controversial figure. Not long ago, in September 2020, he was banned from entering Swedish territories, and according to some reports, he was even jailed by the Swedish police. In the same year in October, he was prevented from entering Germany after announcing he would conduct an anti-Muslim demonstration in Berlin. He surely has a terrible record of anti-Islam activities, but this time, the burning of the sacred book, the Quran, has brought out millions of demonstrators throughout the globe. The fact that Muslims throughout the globe have taken to the streets comes not as a surprise, of course. The Quran is the word of God for the Muslims and was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and the Muslims take it as a code of life or the standard by which they should navigate their life matters. Muslims regard the Quran as Muhammad's most important miracle, a proof of his prophethood, and the culmination of a series of divine messages, starting with those revealed to Adam, including the Torah, the Psalms, and the Gospel. They believe that the Quran is the most divine book because, after years of its revelation, it still remains the only book unaltered. However, it is not the first time Europe has tried to play the religious card against the Muslims, but the consequences of the activities carried out by Rasmus Paludan will have a serious effect on the continent's peace, glimpses of which can already be seen across the globe. This shocking event came as a spark that lighted the ticking bomb, and protesters were out in Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, and the Gulf in particular. Roads, avenues, and embassies were stormed by Muslim demonstrators, asking for their religious rights and the arrest of Rasmus Paludan. The course of events that followed redefined history, and it seems like playing the religion card, Sweden might be barring itself from NATO membership forever. and the Quran burning act might have backfired. Tensions between Sweden and Turkey have taken a new road, and the fact that the appalling act took place in front of the Turkish embassy in Stockholm has enraged Turkish politicians. But the million-dollar question is, will there ever be an end to Islamophobia, or will the West ever take a concrete step against provocative anti-Islam movements? Islamophobia is on the rise in Europe like always. Today, Islamophobia in Europe manifests itself through individual attitudes and behaviors, and the policies and practices of organizations and institutions. The aforementioned incident of Quran burning is a perfect example of how Islamophobia is used to gain political advantages at the cost of religious sentiments. In recent years, Islamophobia has been fueled by public anxiety over immigration and the integration of Muslim minorities into majority cultures in Europe. These tensions have been exacerbated in the aftermath of the economic crash of 2007 and the rise of populist nationalist politicians. They have also been aggravated by high-profile terrorist attacks carried out by Muslim extremists. But in the broader picture, let's not forget what's been happening lately in France, where protesters are all over the country against the anti-hijab policies imposed by the French government. In the name of fighting a ghost called Islamist separatism, a long-time secret policy named systematic obstruction was implemented that ended with a massive crackdown on France's Muslim civil society. And the truth is told, it has had a devastating effect on French Muslims. As many as 24,887 Muslim organizations and businesses were placed on a secret blacklist and under strict monitoring, and 718 Muslim-owned organizations and businesses, including at least 4 schools, 37 mosques, 210 businesses, and 2 organizations were closed. About 46 million euro, or $46.2 million, were confiscated by the French government. And to make things even more difficult, all the NGOs and local organizations were either banned or restricted, and some of them even dissolved, completely isolating Muslims. But the question that lies ahead is a pretty simple one. What lies ahead in the tensions between Ankara and Stockholm after the Swedish approval of the burning of the sacred book for the Muslims? It goes without saying that Muslims throughout the globe view the Quran as their sacred book, and any action against the sovereignty of the word from God is an act of disrespect and is viewed as offensive. Historically, no country has ever approved such an act, and that too under the guise of freedom of speech. The events that took place after the appalling act were a major setback for bilateral relations between the two countries. The extent of the damage this act has caused was exacerbated when the Turkish Foreign Ministry called off the meeting with the Swedish Defense Minister, and it was a clear signal that what happened required some serious attention. Anti-Muslim movements are something that Europe is largely familiar with. Whether it's under the banner of religious freedom or freedom of speech, it has always aggravated violence in the continent. Whatever lies ahead, one thing is for certain: Islamophobia in Sweden has taken a new route, and the burning of the Quran under freedom of speech is something unprecedented in its magnitude. The global political landscape might take a new turn after these events, and who knows if we'll see a new world order in the future.